right? Like Khabib's always trying to help Islam. There would be nothing new to see there. But if you put that tweet and you take it factual and literal, which he said you have no choice, that isn't a threat. That's not tough guy talk by Khabib. He's saying that Dana's other options no longer exist. And what you do with Charles Oliveira is highly speculative, at least to me. Make sure that you all understand this. There is an operating belief that Charles Oliveira will fight in the next undisputed, not interim, world title fight at 155 pounds. That is an absolute operating assumption. Joe Rogan said to Dana White to not make Islam versus Dariush. You guys staying with me? I'm saying a few parts. Stay with me here. We didn't get that elaborated on. As a matter of fact, at the point that it was revealed to us that Joe Rogan is suggesting against making Binion Islam is the first time that I realized that fight wasn't done. That fight was announced. That fight previously had been signed. I get that we didn't make the date. I get insert Bobby Green. I remember all parts of the story. I just thought that Islam versus Dariush is done. That's what I thought. It's now being brought to my attention that it is not. Moreover, I was told, and confirmed this by Google, that Dariush has asked for more time. So Dariush has never agreed to the fight. He's never signed a contract. It wasn't a situation of the contract and the fight is coming up, they just need to move the date. Apparently that fight is not done. Now, I think that the whole thing is worth talking about. I really do. You're telling me that Charles Oliveira, for sure, not even a debate, not even a discussion, for sure is one half of the next undisputed title fight. Yes, that's what you're saying. All right. Your argument for that is that he was not defeated. As a matter of fact, he won. Okay. All right, fair enough. If you get the really smart Mark in the room that's paying extra special attention, he will even state a policy within the UFC that says, if a champion misses weight, as soon as the bell rings for the first round, he will be stripped. He will not be eligible to win the championship that night, though the challenger still can. If the champion wins, he will then have his next fight for the vacated championship. I've seen this verbiage floating around the internet, guys. It could be true. It could be. I'm light on the idea only because it's so poorly written. I mean, that would be a really terrible thing to have officially on the books. Because you're not offering a policy and you at no point say it's an option. It is worded very strongly in the tone of must. Well, you can't make Charles Oliveira do anything. You don't know if Charles Oliveira wants to return to 155 pounds. You don't know if he's ever going to fight again. Oh, and by the way, before he says that he has to fight and a title has to be up, he at least, like everybody else, gets to find out who the opponent is. So there's no part of the way that that's written that anybody could take literal. I can't even confirm for you that it's out there. I think that this is absolute fair game, and I think every 55-pounder in the world should be arguing. And as much as you want to say, Chael, you're being silly, of course it should go to Charles. Well, what you're arguing, if you say that, and by the way, guys, I understand that Charles will be fighting for the championship. I'm not arguing against that. I'm having a conversation to the points. I'm having a real meaningful conversation to the point that, first off, allegedly there's a rule within the UFC that says he must. No rule could be written like that. There's nothing that says that Oliveira has to show up or return to any weight class or must do anything. So if, in fact, that rule was written, it was written extremely poorly. It would be thrown out. But secondly, what ultimately you're maintaining is that he has the right, he's earned the right, he's the greatest, he's proved that he's the greatest. Okay, great. He's a number one contender. I would then come and ask you to show me at any point through history, and you might be able to do it, but I would force you to do it. Show me a time throughout history that a number one contenders match took place and that the number one contendership held up moving forward when the guy didn't make weight. You're going to have a really hard time. You might be able to do it. I could name for you off the top of my head 8 times where a number one contenders match took place. One guy did not make weight. Who won the fight? Who did not get a world championship opportunity? 8 times, top of my head. So I think it's an interesting discussion. I really do. I would not let any opportunity go if I was within that division. I would be fighting tooth or nail. And if I'm Islam or Benny, I would be making the argument as strongly as I could that either our fight is for that, and we will then take on the number one contender, which apparently you're declaring to be Oliveira, or that we get broken up and we go for it right now, which I think is what Khabib is attempting to do, and Khabib is not weak on that stance now that we're confronted with the fact that there's no contract signed. There's no tickets sold anywhere. There's nobody anywhere that believes that they were promised to see Islam versus Benny. Apparently, it was a working idea and a working assumption. So I think that there's real legs to it. I really do. I think that Justin Gaethje could have served himself very well to come out and argue about the turmoil. To speak about the fact that everything that I envisioned every single night was taking the championship from this guy. 24 hours prior to the fight, to no fault of my own, I can no longer take a championship from him. It's vacant. I mean, in all fairness, whatever the excuse is, whether we like it or not, if the guy doesn't state his excuse and get us all to believe that it's a reason, we've got nowhere to go with it. And I think that Gaethje is ever much in the position to offer as strong of an argument as anybody to getting the redo. And there seems to be an acceptance within our sport. Who never likes to accept anything? We don't ever like to accept anything ever. We seem to accepted that a number one contender was just established, even though he didn't make weight, and every other number one contender in the same spot, even with victory, did not get that opportunity. They were put for not making weight. It's a discussion is all it is. I know that Charles Oliveira is fighting for the time. I get the whole thing. I'm speaking from a competitive standpoint. If you're a 55-pounder, you don't just have opportunity now. You now have doubled your opportunity. If you were really smart, you'd get together and demand that there was an interim championship before this championship. Like you collectively would come out, you'd speak, you use your voices, you'd make something happen. But instead, you're all just sitting over there and you're going to be reactors. Somebody somewhere online says it's a rule that Charles goes and fights for the belt. You're just going to accept that? You just accept that? You don't push back. You don't fight for an opportunity. You blow with the wind. Come on, guys. Come on.